Okay, so welcome back to another episode of the Magic Yogi podcast. This is number 25, I think. Have another really good episode with my buddy Luci and friends from our group. And I'll try to have a little something on the screen to show who's all going to be in there. I think we had, who did we all have? We had Lucy, we had Alex, we had Weiwu, Clove. I think Gregory was on too, and Spectre was on the podcast too. So it was a great show, and you can find the show on YouTube, on the Magic Yogi podcast, and Spotify, iTunes, and other streaming things. You can find pretty easy by Googling it. And so, yeah, let's start the show. So, who do we have in here today? We got Lucy in here, Spectre, and what's your username? GUI Guinea Up.
G- yeah, like giddy up.
Oh, okay. Well, good to have you on the
Thank
show.
you.
And we got
I call him Alex, so it's easier to speak his name.
oh yeah, and we got Woo in here too.
Hi.
Hello.
Good to hear from you again. So does
Sounds
any
really clear.
so does anyone have anything off the top of their head that they wanted to bring up on this show?
Well, what do you think, Alex? Anything you want to talk? Interesting subject?
Well, my heart goes out to the families and of the people of Russia and the Ukraine. I really think that war is not the answer. I think that all across the globe we are experiencing an awakening, and as people, more and more people begin to unlock the kind of to unravel the mysteries of this world. They're beginning to understand that love is really the highest frequency that that resonates throughout the cosmos. And it's important for all of us to keep in mind that we're all in this journey together, and this planet is a playground. It's a spiritual playground upon which we are here to essentially learn about our soul evolution, and we're here to learn how to become the best version of ourselves. And and I and in the words of Jimi Hendrix, when the love of power is when the power of love is overcome by the love of power, what is it? I screwed it up. When
The love of
when the
power overcomes the love of the people, I think it was.
when the love of power is exceeded by the power of love,
Oh, right.
then the world will know peace.
Hmm. Yeah, war isn't used for self-preservation anymore. I mean, they still try to sell it that way.
Well, historically, war has been used as a profiteering, as a means of bolstering the economy, and I mean, because the more body bags that you put people in, the more uh, the more profit insurance companies derive from that. And I mean, it's just a domino effect. You've got funeral parlors, you've got insurance companies that profit off of the deceased.
I think
And
I think the USA wants a war, kind of reinstitute its fallen economy. So they just pounding Russia, to go to war to create some sort of conflict. I think it's just to make money. It's not about human rights or democracy or nothing like
Mhm.
that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think slowly over time, I think maybe people that join the military are going to start looking at it more as a violent business than the patriotic reasons that used to be put out there.
And I think that in response to to these violent protests, I think that the reason why the economy is coming to a grinding halt is because people are really beginning to awaken to the truth, behind corporate, behind oligarchies and corporate scandals, and why no one wants to work for a paycheck anymore, but rather be, become in touch with nature and be more in tune with oneself. And so I think that this economy is dwindling because we're beginning to see people protest against the very system that has enslaved humanity to become indoctrinated workers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even if oh, Lucy, do you have your headphones around that you'd be able to use? Getting
Yeah.
getting some feedback coming through your.
Oh, you are? Okay. Let me.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, because the last time you used those, it sounded really good when we
Better.
had it
Let me
connected.
put it. Let me put it on.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, that's why I don't, I'm not really a big group person. I've never been comfortable being a part of any kind of, movement or activism thing. But I do support, any of them that have the wherewithal to put themselves out there and put their lives on the line in any way to support those feelings, because even if the individual groups or protests, you can, argue about what their messages are, but that is coming out of some kind of a natural feeling that these people are having, that, maybe if they all might not be able to articulate it perfectly, but there's
I
a,
agree.
but that discontent, I think, is starting to well over. It's starting to bleed into the physical world.
That was the point that I was trying to articulate, Dylan. We're starting to see a breakdown of not just societal norms, but also economic systems. And I feel that this breakdown is attributed to uh, a, uh, a moral decline in our value system, in just humanity's collective value system. And the truckers that we're seeing that are protesting in Canada, um, all the way to Australia, the demonstrations that we've been seeing that are happening in Australia are having to do with humanity's outcry for justice. And there's no, I mean, you're not going to get that when you're confined within the four walls of your office space, working for a W-2, working for a weekly paycheck at minimum wage. You're just not going to see the forest for the trees. And
I
so,
I, I just
go
don't
ahead.
see the right for any government to be forcing anybody to put any vaccination or to wear mask. I believe it should be like up to everyone, every individual to choose whether to do it or not. How they handle it in the governments. Where they forcibly want you to get that vaccine. I think it's just inappropriate. It's
I agree.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
If I want to put it, I put it, and if I don't, I don't. You should not be able to tell me what to do, just as I don't tell you what to do. If you want, you know what I mean. So the chokers are right.
Yeah, it's very suspicious how quickly, the government was concerned with people's health and safety. Because, there was a lot of other pandemics and things that came
Well, when
around
they
that.
say safety, safety is a code word for control. You know that.
Yeah. You know,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you were like, let's say, I mean, I'm not talking about a, visible leader, but if you were, high up in some kind of decision making group, and maybe you were involved in, some kind of social engineering think tank, would you feel, would accelerating, when we're talking about this resentment building up because of the decline in all these different areas of society, would you feel like accelerating that would be the only way to find a way through that decay?
Yes, because by accelerating the rate of economic decline, what you're doing is you're really bringing out the truth in where people's value systems resides. Um, you begin to understand the motivations behind people's injustices, and just as what Luci was saying, there's no. It is our inalienable human right we are born sovereign beings. We are born with the ability to choose based on free will. And it is not the role of government, nor religion, nor any other institution known to man to enforce or to indoctrinate any systemized legislation that will force people to make decisions against their will. And we're seeing this happening. Not so much in the media, because remember, the media, they're controlled by BlackRock and Vanguard. Okay, the two largest financial institutions on the planet, and so they have their own agenda. Okay, the media is not the place where I look for truth. Um, the best conversations that I've had with regards to what's happening in terms of getting a real litmus test on society is my neighbors, is close family, sometimes not even family, because they're part of the matrix, and they don't necessarily see things as clearly as people who have really gone beyond the matrix and see life, the world, for what it truly is. But back to what you were saying, Dylan, I think just to kind of give closure to what you were talking about, when you accelerate the rate of economic decline, it's almost as though the government is self-sabotaging itself, and it's doing so on purpose to essentially, there's an old expression to separate the wheat from the chaff, if you've heard that before.
Yeah. You know,
So
one of the things I was going to say too is I wonder if that same principle could be applied to social and even spiritual issues in the public. Because, when you were saying about the separating wheat from the chaff idea, if I was injecting uh, spiritually damaging, ideas and media into society, I would assume that people in the public who are more self-aware and are on some kind of path of self-knowledge and are like you said, not completely buying into whatever like paradigm is controlling things. I think they would intuitively know that those people aren't going to be consuming, the media and the cultural things that these groups put out. So they would, what I'm saying, that there could be almost like a process of purging. I know
yes, you are
that
exactly
word's
correct.
kind of been kind of been attributed to different things nowadays, but purging in the traditional sense of like expelling negative things out by causing a reaction, causing some kind of tipping point.
I was going to say, what do you think about the Russia situation?
Uh, I can stay out of this, please? Or can I stay out of this?
No,
Because,
no. Let's see what you have
politics
to
for
say.
me is just a circus. And this American circus doesn't concern me at all. Unless it hits me financially in any way, then
Right.
it will concern me.
Mhm.
Until then,
How
I'm just watching the bullshit. You know?
so so
Hi.
let me ask you,
Hmm.
how has it been affecting you? Is this we
Yeah,
who okay. How has it been affecting you if not financially? How are you being affected the um, by the talks that have been waged, that have been had regarding these wartime efforts between Russia and the Ukraine? How are you being affected by it?
No, this is just, as I said, a circus,
Yeah,
Because let's be honest, Ukraine was in the part of Russian, how do you call it, imperium,
you're right.
empire,
Mhm.
empire, for 400 years at least. I think
Yes,
even more, right? So suddenly, they just feel that they are so special that they need to be uh, enemies with Russia. Come on, this is all propaganda. It's all a matter of manipulation so that someone can have some benefit from it, right? What
I
is
think
annoying
the
is the fact that the gas price it's hilariously high everywhere in Europe now because of this Ukraine bullshit,
Mhm.
it's affecting us in the United States as well.
Well, I don't know there, but in Europe it's affecting everyone, you know,
I know.
without launching any bomb or any
well,
bullets.
it's going to affect everything: gasoline, oil, gas, food, transportation. Products.
Exactly. It's a chain,
Yeah.
the reaction chain. So
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm just making food right now, but I just want
I've
to
had
chime in a second.
Go.
It hasn't been affecting me because my stocks went down. So did my cryptos significantly.
Hmm.
Just to let you guys know that, like 20% at least, it
I
sucks.
understand. I
Yeah.
know.
yeah. So what I wanted to ask was something else. You were talking about, uh, put delimiting the weak from the strong or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Yes, correct.
So who who are those weak and who are those strong in there? I just wonder. How do you guys see it? I mean, the people who are not accepting the rules in a global pandemic are the strong ones, and those wearing a mask or something like that are the weak ones. Do you think that's the way to delimit
Yes,
between them? Why?
because when you conform to hierarchical systems where
Mm,
you have people that are coming out with mandates that are limiting people's choices, you're going to have resistance. It's going to create a separation, like with what Dylan was saying earlier. It's going
yes,
to
but
create a
why are
separation between
the
strong
strong
people.
ones and the other ones the weak ones? Why?
Well, I was gonna say my definition when if I was going to go into that kind of a separating mindset of people, I don't know if I would go into the I don't know if I would use how people are reacting to the mandates necessarily. I mean, that could be part of it, but for me, I would look at it more as a separation between people that are at a real basic level, just people that are curious about their existence, don't that are that are constantly in a state of learning and trying to be more knowledgeable about their place in the world. I think for me that would be my
That's a
separation
great
there.
point.
You know.
That's a
You
great
know,
point.
I
you know,
think,
life
yeah,
life is
sorry.
about risk. as long as you're alive, there's a risk that you're gonna die. So this is why I don't understand the COVID situation, because people are so afraid to leave. You can be walking on the street and a car will run over you. An organ might fail on your body. You might get cancer. So death is always there. Therefore, to live with such caution and life is just not adequate. This is why I don't mind if people want to wear the mask and get the shots. It's good. At the same time, I don't fear that. I don't feel like I necessitate that. I have my own reason, my own faculty to think. So just as I give people the choice to not to wear it, not to get the shot, at the same time I want the same right.
I
You
agree.
know, let's put it this way. Sorry, but I have my opinion too on this. Yes, indeed, I think that this pandemic, this COVID thing, is indeed a way to actually put a limit between this and that. But I see it in a different way. Indeed, you don't have how to put it, a guarantee that tomorrow you will be still alive, you know?
Mhm.
But that
Correct.
doesn't mean that, you don't take the vaccine because you are strong enough to face the death. Because let's face it, most of the conspirationist people were saying that the vaccine actually kills you. So,
I
those who
have
took
some.
the vaccine, do you think that they were afraid of death if the vaccine actually could have
Okay.
killed them?
Can I
You
say
know?
something?
I mean, you can see it in the same way from a different angle, because those who got the vaccine can say the same thing. I don't care if I die tomorrow from the vaccine, I will die anyway someday, and I don't even know what is in the food that I buy from the supermarket. I could be killed with that food, at any time. So why should I fear a vaccine? Or
I'll
why
tell
should
you
I
why.
fear a mask? Hmm?
I'll tell you exactly why fear is the agenda of the powers that be. Now, folks, I'm going to share with all of you some inside information that I have that some of you may be privy to, some of you may not be, but for whatever it's worth, here goes. There's a higher dimensional form of existence in this universe known as archons. I don't know, some of you may have heard of them, some of you may have not.
Yep, I've heard of archons before.
Archons, okay.
Mm.
Fear is their fuel. And we, as a collective on this planet in current time, are going through a purging process whereby the powers that be are implementing a multi-tiered depopulation agenda to eliminate those on this planet who are useless eaters from those who are producers. I know it sounds very cold and calculated in the way that I'm actually communicating this to all of you, but it's the truth. The archons are a higher dimensional beings. They reside in a higher dimensional plane of existence. We do not see them because they are invisible to the naked eye. But rest assured they exist. And the reason why COVID was a conspiracy that was created to inflict fear upon the masses. It is a silent war that does not involve the use of firearms per se, but it's a silent war that has been created to, again, implement duality, to propagate a polarized system between those who are afraid, between those who are vaxxed and those who are not vaxxed. And those who are
Yeah,
not vaxxed are the ones who are being cast out as
exactly.
rebels. You understand?
Yeah, exactly. You have a point. I mean, it was obvious. From the start, media used words like the unseen enemy and certain words which are used in the military. So it was obvious that is a sort of war. It is also a play on fear because fear is the trigger which helps in evolution to go faster, you know? This is one thing. The
Okay.
second, indeed, if you want to restructure the society, if you want to put a reset on it, for example, or you want to reorganize it from the basics to wherever you want to go, you know.
I'm understanding.
For example, I want to change tomorrow all the, oh, let's say not tomorrow, next year, the economic system on this planet, the financial system, and whatever else, you know. I can do it under the scepter of a pandemic easily, you know.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Exactly. On the other hand, we are part of a system. We are part of society, right?
Right.
So, if I want to change the society, to organize it on different, I don't know, standards, I don't need the conspirationists and those who pretend that they have all sorts of rights without giving any, how to put it, without being productive, without helping the society to go on, you know?
Yeah.
Why should I keep those people? Sorry, but why? To be like a sort of poison inside the system? No, it's easier to cast them out, you know?
There's
Well,
Where
we
they are
live in a
still laughing that those who took the vaccine are the idiot ones, you know?
I was gonna say, Woo, have you ever
Probably they are the idiot ones because they are anchored in the past. They are always looking for a normality which was before the pandemic, you know? That normality will not come back anymore because it's in the past. Everything is changing. If they are not able to adapt fast to the changes and they are not able to understand that they live in society, in a system, in a hierarchy where they are not on the top, they are at the base. They have to know their place in this society, you know? If they don't understand this, why should anyone pick them to be useless eaters, as you say? Why?
or you're kind of saying that, there's that to have a say in society, you have to be contributing to it in some way.
Exactly, contributing was the word. I couldn't find it in my mind, you know.
Because I was gonna say,
No, no, that's great.
what
That's
you
wonderful.
reminded me of is there's a the idea that that being a citizen of your country, nowadays there's, like you said, there's people who have the idea that, well, I have all these liberties that are afforded to
Labels.
me and labels that I inherit just by being born here. And there is a little bit of a idea of people being spoiled in
Can I interject here for a minute?
yeah, sure.
Can I say something? But this is the thing, though, that there's going to be automations. There's going to be robots. The truckers are pissed off because there's EV companies making trucks that are going to drive themselves. That's why they feel
Yep.
like, they're being, shafted, given the shaft, and they're doing whatever they can, to survive. And, like the old meme goes, it's like, learn to code. It's like, are they going to learn to code? What? Like, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? That's the thing. And it's like, is everybody who gets ousted by robots going to be a useless eater? Like, I don't think so. I think that people have value other than work. I think people create art. I think people, just by talking to somebody, can influence people to make a better society. It doesn't have to be manual labor. It doesn't have to be driving a truck.
Yeah,
So I will disagree with you guys on that point. I don't think anybody's a useless eater.
yeah,
If you are in a society,
No,
you
I
have
don't. I
to
don't either.
obey
I
the
don't
rules
think
of the
anyone's.
society, you know?
It's not about useless eaters versus contributors. It's about the powers that be, the 1% that control the 99% of the world's wealth, are under the impression that by maintaining a system of control whereby you have people divided on a basic issue such as the vaxxed versus non-vaxxed, race, gender, sexuality, what have you, that they can continue to maintain that control in this kind of endless fight for power. And to your point, I think that, yeah, that nobody's a useless eater. I think that what's happening as a result of this purging that we're experiencing in current time is that new trades and new trades and values systems are being created by people who are reinventing themselves and adapting to the changes in our economy.
Yeah, then not to mention, possible changes coming with periodic cataclysms or extreme climate issues. That could be another thing that's factoring in with long-term planning that, some groups could be doing.
Yeah, that too. I mean, you can't know. Probably something will happen, and
There
those
was
who
a letter that Albert Pike, who was a Freemason that lived back in the late 1800s, he wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini, and he talked about the three world wars that would come upon this planet. The third world war of which, and he writes, and I quote, must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenter of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. Unquote. So what we're seeing is this multi-tiered attack on humanity, where people, back to your point, Dylan, are having to be, are having to be faced with making a decision whether you want to take the red pill or the blue pill. But it really has nothing to do with either. I think it really has to do with with turning that spotlight within, shining that light within yourself, and saying, really, what is my true purpose on this planet, other than being a worker bee or a truck driver or a factory employee. And I think that it's really allowing a lot of people to have an epiphany of sorts.
I gotta
Yeah, but
say
who's getting the
something.
vaccine though? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think the good guys are not the Christian, the Muslims, the current structures. I don't think these are the real elite. The real elite are the good guys, the Illuminati, Masons, the Luciferians. These are the good guys. If the world was being ruled by these groups, we will have a much better world. I think to have a world where all these current groups destroy themselves is a good thing. I think we're reaching a culmination where there will be war and destruction, and out of that, we will emerge into a new world order where these groups, which I consider the good guys, the Illuminati, the Masons, will have a good part in administering the conditions of the world. I know
I
this is,
agree. I agree. I think that they've been given a bad rap, and
yeah,
honestly, there's a lot of contention out there, regarding the reputation that these people have. I mean, it's no different than electing a leader to represent a nation, and having this these people that are supporting that leader worldwide. But then once that leader takes office,
mhm.
assumes a position of power, they, the very people that gave him the crown are the ones that are going to turn him upside down. And so it's a matter of, it's a I mean, in physics, does anybody know how to create a diamond? Just in terms
will try
of
pressure.
High
you have to
pressure.
crush by applying pressure, high pressure, a high amount of pressure to carbon. You create the diamond. And
Are
so
you
what's
creating diamonds now?
a diamond is created by, it's made up of carbon. It's a diamond is carbon based. So it's when you apply extreme heat and pressure to carbon, the end result will be a crystallized form of the carbon, and that's where you get the diamond. So on a planetary level, and I know I'm really painting in broad strokes here, so forgive me if I'm if I'm really just kind of out there, but
I think we're following you so far.
I think that what's happening on a planetary level is we're reaching a point of critical mass, and the minority is no longer the minority because the masses are starting to become illuminated, are starting to really understand really what it means to be a human being, and not just a human doing. So we weren't, we're not born as human doings, we're born as human beings. And so, we have there's this stigma that's associated with the idea of, the only way that one can have any worth and any value in this life is if they conform to the paradigm of being productive. And going back to what you were saying, the guy that talked about the truckers and his stocks that are going down, I'm sorry that had to happen to you, but I agree with you. I think that there's a lot more out there in the way of value that people are just starting to come around to being able to express themselves, to where before, because of financial constraint, they weren't able to showcase their talents. So now you're having a lot of um, I mean, I know that the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world are kind of are a form of monopoly, but I'm still very much in support of the mom and pops shops within my neighborhood. I like to give my business to those shops that the brick and mortar,
Mhm.
the the companies that start out from the ground up, and you establish relationships with them, and you don't feel like a number, you feel like a more than a customer. You develop a loyal, long-standing relationship. And so I'm hopeful and optimistic that what we are going through right now in this pandemic is a formidable social cataclysm that's going to essentially uh, going to catalyze a purging of sorts, where you have people that come out like the diamond, where they're just illuminated and have a profound sense of self, of knowing thyself. And in the Emerald Tablets, if you want to go back into history, in ancient Egypt, on the top of every temple, on the top of every door of the temple, there were three words that read, "Know thyself." And there's a reason why. There's a reason why that is, folks, because we have gone through such a fearful uh, uh, time period of human evolution that we've reached the point of exhaustion. And I think that's really why the economy is on the verge of collapse. Is because enough people are saying, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you know and government should not be mandating anything upon the public, should not be enforcing any legislation or system of control, because we all know that we were born sovereign beings. Each and every one of you on this call right now is a sovereign being, is a light worker. We're all in this together. And I really just hope that we can all use some more discernment, which is the ability to judge well in our lives. And so, anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I agree with you that process of more people being turned to self knowledge is happening, but I feel like it's going to be slow. I think it's going to be a real gradual thing, because it's I always think of the concept of the yugas from
Oh
Indian
yeah,
cosmology, and I always go back to thinking about their concept that we're going through a period of some of the most materialistic and kind of self-denying time period in kind of human nature, because the idea too is that human nature and kind of the universe are tied and kind of ebb and flow in the same way. And so I think if we are
absolutely.
within kind of the most disconnected and ignorant time, that it's gonna be a long process of slowly, turning the ship, so to speak.
I
Yeah,
was
but we
just
are in
looking at that
Kali Yuga,
analogy.
though. We're at the end of Kali Yuga. This is
Yeah.
this is when Kalki is supposed to come out, and I'm thinking that this nobody guy that everybody's obsessed with is actually Kalki. We might see it in our lifetime where things turn to the next enlightenment age, like Gui was saying. And hopefully, I mean, I 100% agree with what Gui is saying. Like everything he said is like spot on so far. With the archons, the whole vaccine thing, I'm not sure about so far because it seems like the people that don't want it have the biggest egos, are the people that resist the most. So I'm not sure on that one.
You think that the people
But
who don't want it have the biggest egos?
yeah, because they're resisting. Like they have the biggest egos. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want anybody to tell them anything.
Okay. That's a good point.
I have a question.
So
Yeah, woo.
What will you guys do at the next pandemic?
Assuming that there will be one.
Of course.
I think I'll do the same. I actually took 2 of the
You
vaccines.
will
I took
repeat the same things that you did in this pandemic?
What I will do is observe, and based on the observation, I will assume what to do. Just
Excellent
logic
answer.
and common sense.
yeah.
Observed. Correct. Because in order to avoid repeating the same mistakes that we've made in the past, we must learn from them in order to circumvent them in the future.
Exactly. We don't know how it will be, so it could be for real, or it could be just this hype, uh, how can I say, government and media hype crap, where they almost sound suspicious. They want to force you to take it, with such kind of makes me suspicious that something might be wrong. It's nothing to do with resistance, but I'm just observing what they're doing, and
Being a
I don't
healthy
see.
skeptic.
Well, yeah,
I mean, look, anything that has ever been posited as a vaccine has only been a ploy to ensure the financial well-being of the pharmaceutical industries that are supporting them. Because, and that's just my personal opinion. I mean,
have you guys
live,
met somebody who's died of COVID? Just out of curiosity. You guys
I've
What was the
heard
question?
of people that have died of COVID, but I haven't personally known anyone though.
no, me neither.
I have. And my girlfriend's a nurse and she has as well. So she's worked at the ward before, and there is people that have it. So it's something that's true, and to see people denying it is sort of interesting.
Uh, you know, elderly people that are sick die of the common cold. Basically, you can die of anything if you have a health problems, and sometimes even healthy people can get sick and die. So I think,
But the wards were not full, though. That's the thing; they weren't full. When there's something full, there's
Do you
always something. Of
guys
course.
do you guys
I'm sorry.
know anyone who died from the vaccine?
I've
Actually,
had
know somebody who's had complications.
Yeah, I've had
Really bad complications
I've
as
had
well.
bad effects from my vaccine that I got. I got one and a booster of Moderna, and I've had some kind of worrying heart things go on.
Well, Moderna was
Yeah,
the
me
most
too, dude. Me too.
big.
I had some
Moderna
freaking
and
heart issues too. I was like, oh,
Johnson, you know?
see, this is
Yeah.
you see, this is exactly what the powers that be want people to be doing, to be talking about the effects of a vaccine versus not having a vaccine. Because the more you get people talking about something, the more it propagates the paradigm of duality. And there's, there's an infinite amount of research that can go into, the human body being the best form of natural defense against disease. And if you break down the word disease, it really just stems from dis-ease. It's a state of mind that when you continue to focus on that state of imbalance, it then manifests within the human body. And so, we can talk from now until the cows come home about what the benefits of getting a vaccine versus not getting a vaccine. And we've all seen what happens to those people who get the vaccine. You just go down the rabbit hole of needing another vaccine. And it's not enough to have two vaccines. Now you have to get the booster shot. And now that there's a fourth one, and now you have Omicron, which is an anagram for moronic. And and the list goes on. So I really truly, as God is my witness, I hope that everyone understands that this is not about the vaccine. This is not about COVID. This is about, as Dylan said earlier in the podcast, it's about ushering in a return to knowing thyself and understanding that by using discernment, which is the ability to judge well, we all can become natural detectives and investigate what we see and consume, not just with our mouths, but with our with our other five senses as well, with what we see on television, on the internet, on the radio, what have you. And just be wary of what it is that you are consuming, because what you consume will end up consuming you.
Okay, on that note, let's take a quick 3-minute break. Gotta take a quick piss break. I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. I think Luci his ideas are very, very current. And I think that he talks a lot about, what happens in our modern society. But see, the thing is you have to be careful with bringing up topics that deal with the current time that we live in, because we have history has a tendency of repeating itself. And I think what Luci is really good at is pointing out the areas of our human development that have been flawed throughout our history, and where we can make improvements by seeing how to not make the same mistake again.
We will always make the same mistakes again. Let's be honest in here. We are not quite the smartest being on earth.
I think we're coming to a conclusion for the world reality as it stands today. There's going to be war, disease, hunger, destruction. Out of that chaos, we can be used as an opportunity to deliver a new world order, based in new truths.
Everything is so also obsolete. There will be war, disease, and from that will stem something new. It's exactly how life happens anyway. There is shit in from, and that from that shit a rose blooms. A rose blooms.
That's a cycle.
Or mushrooms.
That's a cycle that reality follows.
Exactly.
That's the falling of humanity, the lack of consciousness and experience. They keep repeating the same cycle. So out of this collapse that's coming, new forces and governments and powers will emerge. Now, people like us have an opportunity to influence how those powers that will emerge will manifest. Exactly.
Bingo.
Really?
Yes.
When did people have this opportunity? When?
Hey,
You still don't learn anything from history, honestly. Anything.
The things that I have learned out of this pandemic is that everyone has a voice, no matter where you come from or what walk of life you are from. You have a voice, and your voice matters, even if your voice shakes. You want to start even doing something as simple as starting a YouTube channel where you talk about
Exactly.
the third eye and the fifth dimension and the archons and so long as you stay. You want to know the secret to winning the game? Don't play it.
No, this is bullshit. This is the most bullshit thing that I've heard. And you people think that it's so fucking smart. If you want to win the game, you don't play it. Man, you cannot win a game if you don't play. You're not a player. You don't play a game. What do you have to win? You understand this? You have to be in the game in order to win it.
Okay, well, you understand the idea that in order to wage war, you need two opposing sides. Yes.
So,
So the point I'm trying to make is that since the beginning of human history, duality has served to divide and conquer the masses. Are you a Republican? If you're not a Republican, you're a Democrat. If you're not rich, you're poor. If you're not vaxxed, you're unvaxxed. If you're not white, you're black. If you're not straight, you're gay. What I'm trying to get at is if you obviate all of this and you detach yourself from the game that is being played to play your mind into a controlled system of governance, then you win.
One way I could conceptualize that is, if duality is a motor that's running, all of experience and action
I like that.
causality, that if you slow that motor down and experience what's there when it's shut off, then that's maybe a clearer way to see reality.
Man, I think that
Yeah.
duality must be embraced. You have to embrace both sides, And if you want to win the game, you play both sides as you see fit, in order to win it. It's
Well,
not about
okay,
detaching, staying outside of the game, watching, and I won it.
no.
What did you want? An
Wu,
experience of observing.
what I'm saying, Wu, is the oldest form of duality that exists since the dawn of human existence is light versus dark. What we are experiencing as a human collective is an embracing of the darkness as it comes into the light, so that light becomes a new standard, a new system of governance, a new system of a paradigm through which we can all ascend. We are here on this planet to experience a soul journey, and that soul journey can only be experienced when, like you said, you have duality. So I agree with you. I think that it's important that in order to win the game, you have to play it. But here's the catch-22 is that if you play the game, then you're just a cog in the wheel. You're being set up as an opponent to the opposing side that is imposing their beliefs upon yours as if they are better than yours. And I think that's not wise. I think that wisdom comes from understanding that duality, yes, is a necessary component. It's part of the reality construct within which we exist as human beings. But we don't have to necessarily buy into that duality. Is what I'm getting at. That's all.
It's the setup. I mean, that's the game. Though. We are in duality. I mean, look at yourself. We have two hemispheres of the brain. That right there is duality. We have our left hand and our right hand. That itself is duality. We are dualistic creatures by nature. And it's like, I know a lot of traditions say, oh yeah, you have to minimize the ego and stuff like that and kill your ego. It's like, no, you make the ego your friend and you use it. You use it in order to do good. You don't kill it. You use it.
If you kill your awareness, what do you live for?
I just think
you need two rocks to make a spark, right? And a locomotive, like Dylan was saying, a car. You need two wheels to go forward. So obviously, it's duality is an engine. It's to go forward, and it's necessary for the spiritual evolution.
But not when it's at the behest of human progress.
Well, the thing is, you're talking about just one side. We are living on the left side of the tree. So we are incarnated. So we are in the left side. So everything here, people are just use their ego, see what you could gain from somebody. Like how could I maximize my pleasure from that person? How can I gain from that person? It's never altruistic if you really look at it. So these governments are just eating each other. It's an ego eating each other. It's like a guy. It's like in the esoteric books, you see a man eating his own flesh. And that's
right. It's the Ouroboros eating its own tail, the snake that eats its own tail. I mean, we're experiencing. I mean, we've talked about this in this podcast already. That eventually, whatever obsolete systems of governance and economic models that no longer serve humanity are going to fall by the wayside. And what will emerge was what Lucy was saying earlier, are is a new world order of sorts, something that is it's like a phoenix that rises from the ashes. Okay, and this mass purging that we're experiencing on the planet, it's really a form of natural selection. It's a way for humanity to understand that nobody is an island, no man is an island, and we're all in this together. And if we see that the truckers are starting to are ceasing their transportation, and gas prices go up because you've got the Ukraine and Russia competing over territorial demands, then I mean it's just a chain of command. It's a domino effect. And how far must we go before we hit rock bottom and really understand that that war is not the answer, and that love and and empathy. And I think a lot of this has to do with distractions that are being presented to us by the way of the media, and they're keeping us engaged in the matrix by presenting us with incentives to be bigger, better, stronger, faster. I mean, none of that really matters. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look introspectively and you shine that spotlight within, and I'll speak for myself when I say that meditation has been an excellent resource, and it's allowed me to really connect to source, God, creation, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of the answers that I come up with during my meditation sessions have to do with the idea that we're not that we're all connected. And if you know for as much as you like to think that that you're an independent thinker and doer, we all need each other at some point in our lives to lend a helping hand to get
No,
ourselves out of sticky situations.
without
Agreed.
meditation, without meditation, you cannot, and not without going inside you and knowing that the self, you cannot actually actualize and become the true human being. And this is what's lacking in the world, the lack of meditation and the lack of understanding the I am internally,
Yes,
And
yes,
you know?
from
yeah,
the yoga things that I've been into for a long time, there's the idea that the human individual is a microcosm and a representation of the
Mhm.
greater existence. And so when we're using the word purging, that really brought up thoughts of if you take that idea that an individual is can be a representative of humanity in general, I would think that humans are going through this transformation process and are like in shamanism, where if you have to expel negativity or expel baggage and get rid of outdated ways of thinking, that can be kind of a difficult, violent process. And it could be that, like we are saying, we have to be pushed more to the brink to kind of break the addiction to the distractions that we've been hanging on to, because we're moving into a time where we're going to have to operate differently.
It will be a time where humanity will no longer rely on gods and imaginary thought forms. It will be a time in which humanity will finally rely on itself. Will no longer pray to gods and will no longer seek salvation from deities and messiahs, but it will look to itself for solutions. It will use its own reason and faculty to create change.
yes,
That's where
yes.
that's what the nobody means. The capacity to save oneself by the power of one's own hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no big guy, with a white beard and white hair that's going to come down from the sky and save all of humanity. There's no second
So
coming of Christ.
the nobody is the new eon or the new age. He is the represent. We basically, when we write traits or talk about him, basically representing the future. We bring in the future and into the present, and we are kind of giving humanity a glimpse of how it will be in the future. The nobody is the new archetype.
Yeah,
Uh,
Both
Interesting.
though. I think that there could be an individual that can go fishing for secrets, like the secrets of heaven. Like there could be somebody that comes along and teaches us how to do it. It's like the first guy who ran the 5 minute mile. Like a lot of people didn't know that that was possible, but then when it happened, guess what? A lot of people ran the 5 minute mile. It could be the
Well,
same
what you're
thing. Who
talking
knows?
well, what you're talking about is instructing a mass of people on how to become more efficient in within a physical capacity, within the physical domain of realm of existence. I think what Lucy's talking about is as we are progressing and we're really engaged in this dance between light and dark. Eventually, what humanity will come to discover is that we have been the ones we've been waiting for all along.
Exactly.
We are our own gods. We are everything that exists within your bodies. Each and every one of you on this call right now has a universe that exists within your own body. And if you can just find some time throughout the day to look introspectively within and quiet the mind and eliminate all forms of distraction, I can assure you that you will find answers.
And that's what meditation does. It allows you to quiet your mind and to go internally into yourself. So you begin to understand how reality functions and how it's manifested. And then that's when you realize that you are the universe, you are the planet, and all humanity is you. Without that understanding, there is no power
I
to
mean,
change.
I'll
Yeah.
use myself as an example. 5 years ago, I was admitted to a psychiatric ward for having I was going through a lot of financial distress, and so I ended up going into a hospital to be treated for mental issues. And I admit I was having voices in my head that were nihilistic, that were telling me to kill myself, that my life was no good, that my life was going nowhere, that there's no point of existing. And it was not until I discovered the power of meditation that it really turned my life around. Because in meditation, what I've learned is that by quieting the mind, you begin to answer the questions that only you know how to ask of yourself. I cannot ask those questions for you. You have to be able to really become self-aware and understand that we are all connected. We're all part of the every breath that I inhale and exhale, you're doing the same thing. And in that moment, we're sharing the same medium. We're existing on the same physical dimension. So there must be some greater meaning to this existence than just who has a Ferrari, or who has a better house, and who drives a better car, and who has a better education. There must be a much more meaningful existence to this reality. And a lot of the YouTube content that I create really dives into understanding more about the divine self, the divine feminine, and the divine masculine. And not that this is really, I'm not trying to really make this turn this into a promo for my YouTube channel. But
I could
what I want
link
to
it. It's
say,
okay. I could put a link
I'm
up.
sorry, I'm sorry, Dylan. It's just what I really wanted to just de-emphasize to the point is that you know we're kind of transitioning away from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And this new age is bringing into existence new information from the cosmos. We are understanding that we are more than just physical beings, mortal beings that are bound from the womb to the tomb, into producing as much as we can for our employers, and then that's it. And then we take the eternal dirt nap. I think there's more to it than that.
Mhm.
A physical life in a world that is so temporary cannot be real. If you understand that the temporary is not real but only the eternal, then you realize that this world, this material body, this life is just a fiction, an
Correct.
imaginary conception.
Correct.
Mhm.
And I think that's why
I agree with you guys.
meditation can be such a good tool for troubleshooting consciousness, because so many issues
Ooh, I like that.
are tied to the incoming frequencies and the inputs of sensations and thoughts. And meditation sometimes can be it's the only thing that turns your attention away from that hologram and turns it back to, where it's coming from.
Mhm.
Well said.
Agree, but that's the thing though, that both can be true. I mean, I've been meditating for quite some time, long time, and what I've learned is that, maybe I believe in God. That's the thing. But this, at the same time, I believe that mankind can be more. Like this guy was saying, like Gui was saying, that as soon as you try to wake up, guess who comes knocking at the door? These archon things. They don't want people waking up. They don't want that
They
for
do-
you guys.
No, they don't.
That's the thing. But both can be true. You could also become more, but there also could be a God. Like there also could be God. Both can be true at the same
You
time.
are God. You are
It doesn't have
God.
to be exclusive. No, I believe I have a higher self. I believe I have a soul, but I believe that God is the soul of the soul.
I
That's
think
the thing.
that belief, I think, what's happening as well is I'm noticing that belief systems are being rendered obsolete by all these competing dualities, where you have, going back to what Lucy was saying earlier, humanity has been at the forefront of war, death, and destruction for as long as humanity has been in existence, because of its profiteering motive, because of its profiting, because of the profiting ability. But when you look beyond the motivations of duality and why you have warring sides, you begin to understand that you begin to break down the cogs of the machine. And like what Dylan was saying earlier, the best example that you could have given, and I really give you a star for this, is, in order to understand how an engine works, you have to break it down into its basic components. And then once you take those two rocks together to make a spark, then you can see how it works. Then you can see how the internal combustion system fires up the cylinders and makes the pistons move, and so on and so forth.
So
But
there's something beyond duality. That's the thing. That's what I believe God is. I think God is beyond the duality. It's a unification of both.
he
It's
absolutely
something
it
that's on
absolutely
top of
is.
duality. And
Yes.
so a lot of people think, well, good and bad. Well, they think bad comes from the devil. It's like, no, the devil works
No.
for God. There's nothing that can exist without him saying, without him saying, giving the go ahead. It's like the good and the bad comes from God. COVID comes from God. I don't, whatever, however the dice rolled, however he threw the dice, and it happened to, happen. Like, well, maybe the Archons carried it out. Maybe it was the Chinese. Maybe, but at the end of the day,
You're
it
onto
comes from the
something, my
same
friend.
source.
And good and bad are relative. Relative
Correct.
to a moment in time, on your perception, on your benefit from that action or what it is. All things are pretty simple. They are only things.
Yes,
We
you're right.
give
Yeah.
them the quality of being good, of being bad, and so on. So
Sometimes bad things need to happen in order for good things to happen. It's like causality. God has
the
the
moment you
bird's eye
say
view
the
on
word,
causality.
listen to me. The moment you,
Yes.
you utter the word good, bad is already there.
Correct.
The moment you say peace, war is already there. You know?
Yeah.
You create both of them when you just say one of them. So basically, it's all a matter of perception, because what you see as being bad, I could see it as being good.
It's very
Even those bad guys who you called at times Illuminati. Many people say Illuminati are bad. Other people say Illuminati are good. So actually, the bad guys are good guys. The good guys becomes bad guys according to how we want to see it.
DJ wants to say hi to everybody.
Hey, DJ.
Hi, DJ.
Hi.
Well,
Hello.
I think she just woke up.
What actually unifies duality is the thing that everything has duality in itself, you know?
Yes.
Love unifies duality. You love somebody who's
But
bad,
you
but
and
that
your
love's
love, oh
covers.
my God,
Well,
it's not
well,
It
we
covers
live.
all transgression. Love covers all transgression. That's a
We
Kabbalist
live.
saying.
just
Yes, you're
leave
right.
the love aside for one moment. Be more practical. All
Well,
this bullshit is love is everywhere. Love, love,
we
love.
we
La
live
la la
we
la.
live we live in a we live in a subjective we live in a subjective reality construct, and it's by virtue of the limiting senses that we have, which is look, touch, taste, um, look, touch, taste, feel, sound. I think I covered all of them. Okay, we are limited based on those five senses because we live in a subjective reality whereby your good may or may not be my good. Your good may be my bad may be your good. So the only way to transcend, that is to say, to rise above duality, is to look within. And what happens when you start to gain an introspective analysis on this matrix paradigm is oneness. You start to become great, like you become ingratiated with a sense of oneness. And I don't know, I can't really speak to the other members of this group, but every time that I go into a session of meditation, when I'm really at the highest levels of focus and concentration, I'm really in deep trance, all I can feel is oneness. And
And
I
love.
just be in love
Love.
and
Yes,
love.
yes, love. Come on.
100%.
Yes.
100%. That's what I feel too, dude. I'm right with you. Everything you said so far is like spot on.
And
As far as like
and
the
so
Archon thing goes and everything, it's like here's a mirror.
regarding the archons, they were okay. I'm going to really share a little bit more inside information than what I ever have throughout my life, but this is a group that I feel is worthy of such information. The archons. Do you understand? Does anybody have any knowledge of the Anunnaki?
I've
Does,
watched a few
Come on, please stop
documentaries and
with that.
things.
okay, in the book of in the Old Testament, they talk of the Elohim and the fallen ones that came down from the heavens, and they impregnated the daughters of man. Now, the archons are an entity that don't possess a soul. They don't have the ability to create. So they have spirit. They are spiritual entities that use fear as their energy resource. And for as far back as human history can go, the archons have been manipulating the human matrix construct into us believing that in order for us to be validated as human beings, we have to produce in order to survive. And if you think about it, if we're so smart as human beings, then why are we the only species on the planet that has to pay in order to live? Animals don't do that, but yet we.
Animals don't create tools either, you know?
I understand that.
Mm.
So when the archons have implemented this game known as duality into the human construct, into the human matrix system, whereby fear is their energy source, love is their kryptonite. So the more love that we exchange and engage in random acts of kindness and caring towards each other, and acceptance and tolerance and empathy and understanding, all these virtues, that are associated with unconditional love, the more weakened the archons become. Now,
I,
folks, it may scare you for me to be saying this to you on the wire right now, but I've actually had interdimensional experience with archonic beings. They are they exist. Um, I I I can't really go into detail as to really what happened during this engage of this interaction that I had with them, but I will say that in one of my meditation sessions, I experienced one archon leaning over a laboratory table, and I was on that table. I had an extra, what do you call it, an out of body experience.
Mhm.
Um, I was on a laboratory table, and one of the members of the Arconic group was laughing at me with his elbow on my chest, and he was leaning over me, and he was laughing at his cohorts as if to say, he is a pawn, he is an NPC, he is a non player character, and it really, excuse my language, it really, I'm not going to swear, but it really struck me to the core, because it was like a message from the divine, as if to say, we exist, and if you guys don't get your act together and really start loving each other, I mean, really truly engaging in acts of love, care, kindness, empathy, understanding, compassion, we're going to take over your planet, and it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be pleasant.
I just wanted to add one little thing to what you were saying, because I've only kind of had offhand time, reading about things like the archons and the Elohim. Is it that you?
Elohim,
Yeah.
yes.
The What I was gonna say about the difference between kind of those two kinds of intelligences. Would you kind of think about the archons as kind of a higher form of artificial intelligence? Because from
Yes, sir.
the little bit that I understand about it is that the archons are kind of limited by operating within the kind of the fabric, the construct of reality. And
Yes, sir.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think I saw somewhere that even the name Elohim has something to do with light. And so that makes me think that there's a connection, that the light is, a placeholder word for whatever that connection is to the source or to that unified field. And so I
I'm
find
not
it.
going to
Yes.
touch that with the 10-foot stick, dude. But I can tell you that both of these beings that you just mentioned, they're completely diametrically different, and one is way greater than the other, like ridiculously OP.
what's the difference between archons and archangels? Archangels? Hmm? Or they are
Arcane
the same?
Archangels are a a synonym for Anunnaki. They are ancient. They are one of the first civilizations that colonized planet Earth. The Anunnaki have visited this planet before. They
Okay.
are they are based on biblical accounts, known as the ascended the fallen angels. The Anunnaki are known as the fallen angels, the which is also synonymous to the Elohim. So much like the word Satan is used interchangeably with Lucifer, with Beelzebub, with with the devil, religion has deceived humanity by placing different names upon different spiritual entities. So the archangels that you're referring to are a
Mm.
synonym are a synonym of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki beings, they they are essentially, they're not from this they're not from this galaxy. Okay, I can tell you that. They
Mm.
mixed their DNA with human beings when human beings were being created as an experiment to make manifest the divine will of God. Human
Okay.
beings, we we are not what we think we are. We see Adam and Eve is a story that was created by religious deity by religious deities and religious clerics that was used to deceive the masses, to control and to divide and conquer the masses. The Anunnaki, they we have Anunnaki blood in our DNA. All of humanity does
I don't.
because of well, okay.
Uh,
I think the archons, as you call them, are simply essences of your own being. There's no separation from them in you. Within you, there exists all kinds of beings, very deep, very scary, and very strange. But they are not essences that are outside you, but within you. And so, what you experience with these archons or the demiurge, I don't know if you ever hear the demiurge. The demiurge is also an aspect of you. The demiurge, I could say, is nature, the intelligence of nature, which in essence is you. But they are not forces outside yourself. This planet is in you. You are the manifestator of the planet, the demiurge, the archons, the angels, the demons. You know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
Yes,
Alex?
yes,
that
you
goes.
guys
yes.
said that it's an entire universe in there, so even Anunnakis are an emanation of your self, of your
Yes.
own
Yeah,
universe.
yeah. There's
But
always
those
the
are
But Lucy, I can tell you, I don't have any scientific proof that can lead you to believe that I saw these beings, but I experienced holographic images of of archonic presences that were surrounding me in a laboratory environment, and I know it sounds really far fetched, and it's not something that the media would really push to include as a mainstream agenda. But all I'm trying to say is use your imagination and think of ways to come up with
Well,
who we are as human beings.
for you, the archons are real, just as for somebody that believes in Christ, Christ is real.
Yeah,
Degree of reality you place upon what you see is according to your degree of faculty and knowledge. But
true.
those archons or what you imagine is real, but it's not real. It's you.
there's
Oh
It's
no,
you
it's not
imagining.
real. They
yeah.
don't exist on this plane of existence. They are
Yeah,
they exist on higher dimensional planes of reality.
which is
I
you.
tend to agree with Dylan on this that the archons are simply controllers. They are maintaining sort of reality,
Like an administrative
and the sort
level
of
of,
exactly, and a sort of
Totally.
balance between things. They don't need to be empathetic or anything because
They
their
have no
role
empathy.
they don't need to have it.
hmm,
You when all you have is to control things in order to keep them in balance, you don't need empathy to empathize with a side or another or anything. You just need to keep things in balance and under control. That's all. You know, you,
Yep.
from your point of view as a human with empathy and so on, you consider that they are soulless and all that. They don't even need a soul.
I know.
Maybe they are artificial beings, emanating from an artificial intelligence or
They
a
are.
synthetic
They're not.
intelligence, you
They're,
know.
they're, they they don't have a soul. They are artificial beings
But
that
on the
exist.
other side, sorry to tell you this, but on the other side, if they don't have a soul, they don't have empathy because they don't need it in what they have to do, okay? Why do you think that love would actually do some harm to them?
Let me just tell you, sometimes when I do dimensional travel in my meditations, and I see beings that are like godlike, I don't get
Okay.
scared, no matter how scary or how dark they look. I don't scare of them because I know those beings are me, are aspects of perhaps a previous eternity or previous universe where I was those beings. So I know I'm seeing myself whether in the past or the future. They
I do the
are,
same thing.
yeah. So that's why when I see these beings that are so magnificent, I know that that could be my future, or perhaps that was my past. They are aspects of my own eternity. my fluidity, my energy, you know.
Mhm.
And forgive me if I'm imparting a lot of these, these shamanic culturally based terms in this discussion, but I think that for the purposes of trying to go beyond the scope of duality, I wanted to bring up this topic because
Well,
um,
yeah, it's hard to even discuss these things without any cultural reference. With no cultural
because we don't
reference,
have a record.
yeah, it's not. I mean, you can talk about them in maybe some pseudo scientific terms, but yeah, no,
Right.
you kind of have to take a step from the cultures that we still have some records of their conceptualizations of these things and kind of piece together what's there apart from the labels and, like you said, the superstitions or fear-based, ideas.
I think there's something to be said though about trying to evolve spiritually. Though I think that we need to exert ourselves. I just don't think that it's like religion says that you're just going to be saved automatically. I don't
Mhm.
believe that. I think that there
No,
has to be a level of exertion because why would these things go after you if you try to wake up? That's the thing. Why are they
I
going after
know.
people who try to spiritually wake up? That's the only question I have. Okay,
The
we might be. Go ahead.
the Gnostics use the term archons. Christians use the term Nephilim. Certain indigenous cultures used Wetiko. Other
But the
shamanic cultures,
Nephilim weren't the giant ones.
the Nephilim.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were the giant ones.
all I'm trying to present in this podcast is an idea that our history as a human species is not like anything that history has ever presented itself in terms of Darwinism, in terms of
Alex,
yes.
Alex, let me just Clovis here. I know he wanted to join us yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Clove.
Cloveny,
What's up, guys? Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Oh,
Thanks.
peace.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pretty
Thanks for
cool.
being here.
Yeah, all good. Always wanted to talk to Lucifer. Seems like a pretty cool dude, and I enjoy his work. And
One of the
much
best.
thanks for him. Yep.
here I am.
Carry on.
Yeah, it's just we just got an open forum here, so it's just we got about half an hour left. Yeah, we got about half an hour before we'll have to start shutting it down. But yeah, so we've just been talking about archons and and so let's see what else. Human evolution we went into for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been
Pretty much the Gnostic stuff, right? I mean, that's like the ABCs, I guess, of like
Yes.
this like spiritual
I
thing.
think the Gnostics are accurate, but there is a transcendental Gnosis, where you go beyond the archons, beyond the demiurge.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to seek, a superior spiritual system. And that can only happen with the knowledge of all different systems of history and spirituality, especially the left-hand path. But anyway, Alex, what were you going to say?
I was going to say exactly what you just. I'm going to dovetail on what you just said.
Yep.
When you have this idea of human existence having evolved from primates, it's really an incomplete picture, to say the least. And what I've gathered throughout I am by no means a scientist or a researcher by any stretch of the imagination. But what I've concluded based upon my experiential encounters with certain interdimensional beings in both my meditation sessions and in the real world is that our DNA is a conglomerate of certain spiritual entities that have broken galactic code and that have intermingled with our genetic ancestors, with the original beings that inhabited this planet millions upon millions of years ago. And the original the original reason for mining this planet, the reason why this planet is so precious is because it is the crown jewel of the cosmos. We are the only physical manifestation of life that we know of. And because there is gold on this planet, the Anunnaki, they need gold in order to reverse entropy, in order to reverse genetic engineering and the level of genetic decay that they have been experiencing over the course. They're getting older. In other words, they're aging, and the only way that they can remain in existence, I'm not saying alive. I'm saying in existence, which means that they exist on higher dimensional levels of reality in the spiritual realm, is by inducing fear. Fear is their fuel source. It's their food, and love is their kryptonite. So, and that's just really one take on this, on this wild adventure, that we're going on. I mean, you don't necessarily have to, accept or understand or even agree with my views. I'm just saying that, in order to make any sense of this duality construct within which we were all born, we have to all learn to become natural investigators. And that means sometimes you have to go beyond what the media is forcing down your throat, like foie gras, like how they make foie gras. You force feeding ducks, corn until their liver is so fatty that they can no longer live. And that's exactly what meditation does. Is it allows us to disconnect from the external factors that are not serving us in terms of allowing us to evolve spiritually, and it allows us to look within. So thank you, Luci, for really your insight on breaking away from hierarchical systems and creating a superior, and not creating a superior new world order per se, but looking beyond the veil, trying to make an effort to look beyond the veil of illusion.
Let's talk, for example, the Anunnaki. They say that they created us so we can mine gold. I mean, a civilization capable of creating a brain, a human body, so sophisticated that even computers today cannot produce a brain. They will not create helpless, weak humans to mine gold, where they can create advanced machines, robots that can do the job faster. So that's illogical. That the Anunnaki story is not adequate. If you're capable of moving through space and creating advanced biological organisms, you can create systems that can mine gold from any planet. You know what I mean? So by using common sense, we can deduce that the Anunnaki story might be inaccurate or false.
Oh,
What do you think, Dylan?
one thing I was
I agree.
what I was thinking about with the Anunnaki story is that there's a thread in there that's a pretty common piece of information that people who have had interactions with, non-material beings or such, is that the idea that there's a maybe how would I put it, a less dense, different vibrational frequency state of being that these entities have either they exist in naturally, or they went through a process of evolution into that state. And I can't remember which exact podcast it was, but there was a Higher Side Chat podcast where this researcher who was collecting stories from, I can't remember where it was, these villages in Russia, and some of their old kind of creation stories and interactions with shamanistic practices and contacting beings, that they had these stories that there was, I guess you would call them good Anunnaki, like light beings that were instructing them that, someday there's going to be cataclysms or earth changes where you're not going to be able to survive in the dense physical bodies that you're in, and that someday you'll have to move towards a state where you can survive in a way.
Ilan, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. You left me quick, with kind of curiosity about that subject about uh, disappear in this body and you're becoming just becoming a spirit, like energy where whatever happens on the earth, asteroids or whatever, it doesn't affect you.
Mhm.
I remember you told me something about that subject. You were going to give me some information. That
Mm,
in the past there was destructions, but the ancient civilizations didn't go underground, but they just simply disappear. I agree. In the book, reason in the book I say they went underground is because they were evolving.
mhm.
They were becoming weaker and less capable of spiritual capacity. So that's why they went underground on the book. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I think that, like I said, I can't pull things out of the top of my head so easy, but
The book that comes to mind is like Vril, the Future Coming Race. Have you
Mhm.
heard of
I
that?
have that book. I have that
Yeah,
book.
that's the book that comes to mind about how they eventually evolved
Mhm.
and stayed underground. So I don't know if it's along those lines, something like that.
I believe there were civilizations that went underground and built cities, and they were advanced. And I'm sure there was other periods because the Earth is billions of years old, and there have
Of
been
course.
creatures for millions of years. There could have been other civilizations that had come and go, and we will not be able to know uh, that they existed. The pyramids are aspects of those civilizations. But there could have been other systems that we really do not know about it.
Yeah, and if we take into
Uh,
account, the cyclical nature of, humans going through evolution or de-evolution and or new,
Correct.
completely new races of humans going through that process, you could have civilizations that were around recently, but maybe their style of living, their mode of being, we can't recognize what that civilization would have looked like because we don't have the reference point for it.
it's possible
Yeah.
that the civilization from like Machu Picchu, those groups that built those ancient cities, that they indeed disappeared and they went to other dimension. I mean, that's something I'm very interested that you probably may know about.
Mhm.
Or maybe they went into space,
Yeah.
and
Well,
at some point they came back as gods.
what we know of this planet is that we have been breathing within a biosphere that allows us to expel oxygen and inhale oxygen for a couple million years. Okay, but anything that happened prior to that, we have no knowledge of the civilizations that have entered the entered our planetary sphere and colonized this planet. So that's why I know that some of these topics are considered, to be, kind of borderline conspiracy uh, theory. However, it serves to mention that when you talk about the origins of humankind, you have to include infinite possibilities of genetic mixing that has allowed us to reach this point of evolution, to reach this point of humanity. I mean, how else can we explain telepathic ability? How else can we explain the ability to to have out of body experiences if not for the intermingling of genetic components that have caused us to breed to breed with off-world inhabitants.
But telepathy is easily explained by the fact that everything is interconnected.
By
You
an
know, you don't
Right,
electrical
need,
universe.
right.
and you don't need
Yeah,
a being from
you don't
another
necessarily to
planet
breed
or
for that.
anything else from another dimension because everything is interconnected anyway. And if you
Right.
take it even further to the quantum state, you will understand that basically we are so connected that we cannot even imagine. My idea that I have now can resonate in another 1,000 people, you know?
Yep.
So, you don't need other beings from other dimensions. And look at
I
us,
agree.
where we are us now, to the point of technology that we have. We can actually go into space if anything, a catastrophic event happens. Elon Musk will probably move his ass in a space ship somewhere, right? He
Mm.
will take another few people with him. He will probably go through a wormhole and come back to Earth after, let's say, 1,000 years.
Sounds like
Maybe
this. Sounds like
after
Prometheus.
1,000 years, he will find two tribes of survivors here without any knowledge of the former technology that was prior to the catastrophic event on Earth. But Musk will have that knowledge. And when he will start to share that knowledge or help those tribes in here, he will be seen as a god. Understand? You know how many
Yes.
times this happened with people who survived going underground, with people who survived going up to the mountains or in the space, and when they came back, they were perceived as lords, as gods, and probably they were like the first brick to another civilization. You know?
Mm.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
sure.
point.
Yeah.
It's
So,
possible that the fallen angels were just human beings that survived a catastrophe, and when they were able to talk to the people that did not survive the way they did, they were just like it's like today. If we go to the jungle to people that have never seen civilization, we will look like gods. So
Right.
it's very likely that the fallen angels were simply people from a previous civilization that were able to preserve their culture and advanced systems. And
yeah.
when they meet the savages, the people that could not do so, that they just are lost. For them,
So,
it was
so
God.
you can also imagine, for
That's a
example,
very believable story.
when you have the catastrophic event, the planet was populated by giants, for example, right?
Mhm.
After that event, a few giants survived, and I don't know where they were. Probably in a forest. No one knew about them. They stayed in there. Fuck knows. Maybe they had other life expectancy and all that. And after a while, they come out from the forest and they find shorter people who were actually scared by those giant people, you know?
Mhm.
And of course, the
Mm.
giant people were the bad ones, right? Because they didn't look like the shorter people and they were eating more, and who knows, stuff like this. Or it can also happen that after a catastrophic event, mutations begin in the population which survives. Some of them will probably grow giants, others will grow shorter, you know?
The Nephilim
Yeah.
were actually, there was a time in which plants and animals grew larger. So it's very
Exactly.
likely
Yeah.
That's
that
the point.
Trees
it's
as
very
well.
likely
Yeah.
that those human beings were simply from a period before the catastrophe, and they were survivors. And
Mhm.
eventually, people begin to grow less and less and live shorter lives. And so, when they saw those giants, they were thought that they were demons or fallen angel sons. That's
Yeah.
probably what happened.
Yeah, like Lucy, I think I brought this up on one of the other podcasts that we did, but there's this book that I have
Mm.
from this Dr. Ernst Muldashev called "Where Do We Come From?" I don't know if you guys can
I've
see
heard
that
of
on
it.
there. Yeah, and so there's a part of the book where he talks about this knowledge that these Himalayan yogis have about the human gene pool, and it reminded me of this picture I've shown Lucy before of these showing kind of predecessors to humans. Like the story is that there was these like you say giants or Nephilim that were a lot more capable in the non-material world and had a lot more control of their faculties and such, and that there was
And
that
and
kind
I
of
actually talk
yeah.
and I actually talk about that subject on the book I wrote. Remember, Dylan?
Yeah, about the kind of process of de-evolution from
Uh-huh.
these earlier races that had to like you say either go underground or escape into a different way of being or something.
Yeah.
Well, when you have cataclysmic events that take place on this planet, it's a matter of human evolution to adapt to one's surroundings, right? So, I mean, going from oxygen breathing human beings to non-oxygen breathing entities requires a violent change in the biosphere. And so what I'm proposing is that we have acquired this ability to breathe available oxygen based on climatic changes, massive climatic changes that have occurred on a global scale that have allowed our lungs to evolve and become more adapted to taking in breathable oxygen. Whereas you hear stories of you know of reptilians and people from the Greys. These are non oxygen breathing entities that so it's really interesting to really dive into this subject matter, and
But
I think
doesn't
that
Yeah, that's the
and
whole
I,
order out of chaos type thing, right?
and I'm really grateful that we have this podcast that creates a safe haven for people like myself to talk about non-mainstream ideas that would otherwise leave us feeling like outcasts of society.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look, you're not going to get this information by tuning into headline news on Channel 7, on the 10 o'clock news tonight. This is not mainstream information. This is, this goes beyond common knowledge.
I
one
don't
thing? Do
mind.
you propose we're seated here then? Because in the Bible, right, it says that we came from Eden.
Oh, fuck you.
It says that we were fallen, we fell from Eden. So does that mean like we were seated from a different planet or a different dimension? And could it be that the reptilians and the Greys were actually here all along and we actually invaded their planet?
I'm
Maybe the
proposing
was on the moon, you know?
I'm proposing that the humans have I'm proposing that human beings have been a long-term experiment whereby our early ancestors um, were 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 given a chance to cultivate civilization, and we failed because we became more concerned with amassing wealth and conquering territory, and so our controllers, aka the Anunnaki, reptilians, what have you, they interceded and they came to Earth to essentially ensure that the galactic code was not broken, and that we would continue to flourish on this planet without having this being overcome by greed, by gluttony, by hatred, and so I think that because this planet is the only planet that is able to sustain human life, that is able to that we know of, I think that off-world inhabitants and off-world beings such as the Nephilim slash Archons slash Anunnaki, these entities have essentially been our game wardens. They've
I
been
mean,
looking out for.
it's the victim card. I mean, I don't want to equate it to Anunnaki. I mean, we're etheric beings. We're just trying to figure out our genetic lineage. Like, where do we really come from, and why do we always have to? It was a gene splice. It was because of them. See, that's kind of my issue with it. And I don't necessarily agree with like the whole chaos out of order. The whole like event thing that happened and we evolved. Things could have been differently. I think, as humans, it's has to do with more of harmony. So I don't know if you guys agree or you guys take my point with the whole Anunnaki, Nephilim, fallen angel. That could be the game. You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
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 I agree.
That's
If
just
you
my
look
point.
at the
Yeah.
symbolism of Anunnaki, you'll actually see them grasping a creature on their left hand every time.
Well,
a little lion
that's
or
the
something.
game. I mean, that's
I know.
Or they're
plagiarism.
standing on
There's
it, right?
something called
So
iconoclasm. Have you guys heard of that? Iconoclasm?
Yes.
Pretty much rewriting.
I mean,
It's pretty much
look at the dollar bill. You've got an eagle that is grasping at a bale of hay, that is grasping at, no, excuse me, at a bunch of arrows. So, I mean, it's the symbolism is embedded within the code of our matrix everywhere you look.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like for me when I look at the symbolism, I'm thinking of the ego. These things, whatever they were, had a grasp of their own ego. Where these creatures represent the ego. Either they're standing on it or they're holding it tight on their left hand. And their feet are always pointing right, if you notice the symbolism.
Yes.
Yeah, that's sort of my belief. I think that we were seated here. I think that the reptilians and the Greys were here before us. I don't think they're from space. A lot of people think they're space aliens. I think they're multidimensional. They're in a dimension we cannot perceive, but they've always been here.
So we were
And,
seated. We were seated in terms of how, like.
I don't know. It says that we came from Eden somehow. I don't know. It's either a different dimension. We're like etheric beings, like higher dimensional beings that fell down dimensions.
What do
I
you
have
think
3
is
words:
the
chromosomal splicing, and genetic manipulation.
They're talking like artificial,
they're gonna claim they created
wombs,
us, which they have not.
Something like that.
Why? Maybe there was a bank of DNA, saved. Like we are building now banks of grains of DNA and everything. Maybe another civilization did the same, And after
I
a
know.
catastrophic event, they just put out a DNA sample from there, and they started to make Adam, Eve, and whatever the.
I mean, it's not that far fetched from what we're experiencing in the medical world today, where we've got DNA, we've got cloning, sheep being cloned, and artificial organs that are being genetically engineered in labs.
You cannot know.
So that wouldn't be the original history. I know what you guys are. I know where you guys are coming from, but I don't like.
What I'm saying is that we're coming full circle.
Yeah.
Whatever's been done.
It was an attack. It was an attack. I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, why do you think Archons don't like nuclear bombs? Like for what? Why do you think these space aliens, supposed space aliens, or Greys or whatever, or interdimensional beings, they'll stop the nukes? Why do you think?
Because they understand that because we are the crown jewel of the cosmos. If this planet disappears, if this planet explodes, there is no other. I mean, in order to create a planet that is capable of sustaining human life and allowing plant life to blossom and creating ecosystems that are intricate and as elaborate as we have on this planet today, it would require eons upon eons of time. And so I don't think that they really have that time to waste.
What if I tell you that nobody seated us here, that nobody placed us here, that it's been all of us all along, that we place ourselves here? Yes. It has always been us. Nothing superior above us.
Get out of the victim mindset. We start. Exactly. That's why I like the nobody thing. Yeah, I like that theme better.
I like that theme too, Lucy. I really would like to think that there's been no one else, no other beings that has interfered with human evolution besides us.
That's what I was telling you, that the Archons, the Demiurge, these forces are not exterior forces that tell you that have power over you, but that they are within you.
I think
that the history,
yeah, that maybe what you're saying is that when we talk about these concepts, they're characters in a dream.
Exactly. They are energies that emerge from your own subconscious.
You won't get this on Ancient Aliens. They won't push this narrative. Trust me, this won't make the hype.
What about the narrative?
It's always that
the chamber under the Sphinx, the chamber that matches in Tibet, the chamber that matches in Afghanistan. I mean, that's where they're supposedly sliced us, the Anunnaki with the indigenous Homo sapiens. That's that story.
Come on.
I probably sliced one of them up too back in the days.
That's the thing, is that the higher ones control the lower ones. That's what we have to understand. If you play on a higher playground, you could control the people on the bottom. That's how it works. So this whole thing is a fight for the ladder. So the whole nobody story is about a guy who figured out how to climb the ladder and
No,
basically
no,
outsmarted the
come on.
NWO and all
Everywhere
these
it
like
works the
powers.
same. You know, even dogs have the same hierarchy. What the fuck? Honestly.
But under
That's
the
the anime. We're more than dogs.
yeah, but under that same idea, I mean, I've read enough like classified stuff that through the dark web and stuff like that regarding a lot of the things that they found in Afghanistan that it goes along with those stories, that there's this bubble, the sphere that they can't penetrate unless they're higher elevated people. And military personnel were killed trying to get through it until they figured that out. And then what ended up happening is they go into a room that is completely foreign to them. That we can't even grasp it until we start trying to manipulate it. And from the manipulation, we figured out that you could create any animal or anything you wanted. And that's
What
how
if I
they did it.
told you that I had a direct experiential encounter with a member of the Archonic tribe?
100% believe you.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you by any means. I mean,
I'm-
I know
I would-
I know other people that
Yeah,
have.
I mean, they exist, sure.
I-
Reptilians, whatever.
I was in a meditative state, and I vividly recall being placed on a laboratory table whereby one of the Archonic members with an elongated skull reached over my body, put his elbow on my chest, and started laughing. It was a deep, sinister laugh, and I had awoken from that state of trance, from that state of meditation. And prior to that, I mean, I should have all of you know that I was a non-believer. I really was dispelling any dark web, beliefs or research that would be in support of archonic beings. And it wasn't until that experiential encounter that I had that it made me kind of like ponder the possibility. Lucy, I say possibility. I don't say that they do in fact exist, but that we may be more than than our human existence as a species may be more than just what Darwin was trying to pass off as evolution, which I think we can all, hopefully.
Well, we are gods.
Yeah, the
Our
Archons don't have that mindset. They don't think like
Okay.
that. You see what I'm
But
saying?
how did you know
We're
it was
stronger
an
than the
arc?
Archons, guys.
Yeah.
How
Somebody
did you
tell
know
you.
it was an
Elongated
arc?
skulls. Come on, elongated skulls. Come on, look at our skulls, man. We're prettier. I would say. In my opinion.
Huh? Man, how
We
did you
are
know it was an Archon? I want to
I think
understand this.
because there's no other, well, call them whatever you want, but they're the only beings that dared to manifest themselves into a holographic reality that I could recognize as beings that were not human.
How did you
And
know that?
because I saw that these beings did not look like human beings. There were many of them, and they had dark eyes, and they just and again, this was just based on one experiential encounter that I had. Okay, and I'm just saying that if we are to take this moment in time throughout our in our human history and examine the root of our beginnings, I think it would behoove all of us to look beyond what we think we know and admit that we don't know what we don't know. I mean, we
Yeah, I
cannot.
understand this. I understand this, but the guy didn't have a business card written on it Archon, right? He didn't say, I'm an Archon. I will eat you. No. So how did you come to the conclusion it was an Archon? That's what I want to understand.
Because
You had
all the
an
evidence, because
instinct, it
all of the
was a gut
research that
instinct or something,
all
or
because
by
all of the research
education,
that
right?
I've done, all of the research that I've done on the dark web and in on the internet has been in support of these of I it was a match. It was a perfect match. I call it, I was not in a hallucinic, I was not taking any hallucinogenic drugs. I was in a
Okay.
perfectly lucid state of mind. I'm just
But
saying that.
after all the research that you were doing, don't you think that there is a possibility that that archon was actually an emanation from your subconsciousness? From
Exactly.
all
Seems like
the knowledge
seems
that
like
you
it's
gathered here and there?
seems
But
like a
why would it?
program. Yeah, that
Why would it
he
manifest? Why would it manifest in the form of a higher of an energy of an energetic being that exists
I
on a
mean,
higher
why
dimensional
not?
plane?
You said that it matches the knowledge that you gather from here and there about them, right? So it's like basically when you gaze into the abyss, the abyss gaze back to you. You know, it's the same
Correct.
thing.
Right. So are we? I think at this point it's safe to say that really no one knows exactly where we come from, and all of what we're talking about is just mere speculation, right?
Yeah,
I think I
No,
think I
dude,
agree.
I believe you, bro. I don't want to say I've had. Well, I don't want to talk about it too much. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Dude,
if
I'm
I
the
talk
same.
about that type of
I
stuff,
believe.
you
I'm
know
the
what I mean?
same.
Like, look, that's the thing, though. People are not going to believe you, but it's. I'll tell you what.
Let's
I'll tell you one thing.
try
I
it.
believe you. You know, they talk about in Islam. They talk about D-Jinn. It's the same thing. If you really look at it, they're talking about
A jinn.
interdimensional beings.
I
Yeah, it's the
don't
same
say
thing.
that I don't believe you, but your brain has problems in delimiting the realities, you know? So maybe some things that come from your subconsciousness look like reality to you. You understand? That's
Yeah,
what
but
That's
I'm
the
how can
thing,
you
saying.
though. We are
explain?
creating reality with our five senses. We're living in a reconstruction
Exactly.
of reality. Our
So
brain reconstructs
probably
reality,
you
but that doesn't
created.
mean there's something outside of it. You know, there could be something that
So there
we
is
have
a
a
possibility
limiter on.
that you created the archons, right?
Maybe
I don't
back
believe
to what
that.
Lucy.
No.
Maybe back to what Lucy was saying. Maybe we are the gods that we have been waiting for all along, and that the archonic beings are nothing more than a subconscious projection of our thoughts and deep dark imagination.
and I
exactly.
think
That's what I
there
was.
could be a in between of that they are these projections of consciousness put into an administrative role, and that they can be attracted into awarenesses that are moving into that kind of thinking, and being more questioning, or
We're getting into like we're getting into the
Right.
lines of like a parent-child dynamic. I think
Yes.
with that,
Yes,
and
we
we
are.
need to evolve past that. Become spiritual adults.
all right.
It's
So
like,
That's
for
all I have to say.
example,
Just saying.
I don't see. Yeah,
quickly, Lucy, we got about 3 minutes before I gotta shut things down. We're running out of tape, so yeah, whatever you guys, your last thoughts
let's
here.
just say we are the gods. We have always been. This universe is one of many universes that will come and go. We're just dreaming, an eternal dream of many adventures. There is nothing above us or below us. It's only us, the abyss. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Anything? Everybody else say one last word?
Yeah.
Sorry, Lucifer, got one question. What's your favorite color?
Black.
Okay, black. Right, that's it.
Nice.
Alex, something quick.
Pretty obvious.
We will
What?
say something.
Nothing.
Last words.
Something. There. You have it.
I think that no matter what anyone truly believes in terms of where we come from, or what our genetic or what our lineage may be, I think that we're all coming to the realization and understanding, back to what Dylan was saying, that we are the creators and co-creators of our own reality, and we are the administrators. We have the ability to really take back our power and really become the creators and co-creators that we were meant to be. And I think that what we are going through right now is a passing phase. I think that there's that the more people begin to strengthen, come together in numbers, and represent the mass mentality, the herd mentality. I think that this herd mentality will come to a point where it reaches critical mass, whereby people will begin to understand, based on the hundredth monkey experiment, that we are not alone, that we are all on this journey together, and that we all really need to support each other and be kind and empathetic, because remember,
And love.
and
Love.
and
Yes,
because
love.
because be kind to each other, because you don't know, that person might be fighting a battle you know nothing about.
One last thing,
Yep.
Dylan, when we're going to have another show, let them know so that way they
Oh yeah.
can kind of.
From now on, we'll do it Wednesday around this time.
Want to do it Wednesday?
Yeah,
Oh,
Wednesday.
perfect.
Wednesday around 5 p.m. Mountain time. Yeah, weekly. Do these kind of open things. Yeah, I just
That
want
way
to.
they
Yeah,
that way
people
these
can
guys can
plan
know.
a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I
And
just
I'd like
want
to thank
to.
you from
Yeah, I
I'd
just
like to
want
thank
to.
you from the bottom of my heart, because I really feel like this discussion was worthwhile and productive. And thank you again for including me in your podcast.
Yep, no worries. This is exactly what I wanted this podcast to be doing. I mean, if anyone looks at the episode, there's a lot of different stuff in there. There's stuff from when I was doing comedy at the comedy club, but the main
Oh,
thing
cool.
is just to put have a platform that's open, that's not censored, that where we can, we don't have a ton of listeners, but it's getting bigger all the time, and we can hopefully even introduce these ideas to people that normally wouldn't have heard them, because even
So,
even
so if any
esoteric.
of you,
Oh, what's that?
I was gonna say, so any of you want to join us next time, you're welcome. Right, Dylan?
Yeah, 'cause-
Dylan, do you have a YouTube channel?
Yep, it's just under Dylan Standing Alone, my name. And
Oh, okay, cool.
yep, and the podcast is called the Magic Yogi Podcast, and it's on just about everything. It's on YouTube, it's on iTunes, Spotify, and a few of those other streaming things.
Awesome.
Because I've been a little bit into some paranormal and esoteric kind of podcasts, but even those are, if they get popular enough, they have to they have to go
Censor them.
for listenership. They have to go for growth and advertisements. And I'm just doing this strictly for the conversation and just to get different ideas out there.
Hey, would you like to see the Nobody's New Constitution?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we gotta end the podcast right now, though. We're running out of time, but
Yeah, it's for members only.
yeah, okay. So we'll be back again next week with one of these, and I don't know, there could be ones in between, but thanks again, everyone.